Hello, this is Texas Secretary of State Ruth Hughes. Welcome to the second annual Texas Businesses Against Trafficking Conference. We are so glad that you all could join us today, business and community leaders alike, to discuss our Texas Businesses Against Trafficking, also known as TBAT program, where we can come together in fighting human trafficking for the betterment of Texas and our nation. As Texans, we are proud about all of the great things that our state has accomplished or leads the nation in. However, there are always ways that we as a state can strive to improve. One such area is on human trafficking. For us to solve the problems our state faces, we must first acknowledge they exist. And human trafficking is a problem that unfortunately exists in Texas. The University of Texas at Austin estimates that there are currently over 300,000 victims of human trafficking in our state. Of these, over 79,000 are minors and youth experiencing sex trafficking, and approximately 234,000 are adult victims of labor trafficking. Texas also has the second highest number of reports to the National Human Trafficking Hotline, and 1 in 7 endangered runaways reported to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children are likely victims of sex trafficking. These are stark realities that our state faces, but make no mistake, as Texans, we've never been afraid of coming together to face our challenges, and we will not stop now. Together, we will combat human trafficking head on and make clear that the Lone Star State will not stand for these heinous acts. In 2016, at the direction of the legislature, our office established TBAT to help businesses in our state work together in sharing training resources, best practices, and information to help combat human trafficking. However, we need to do more, and we want to take this opportunity to call on Texas businesses to learn more about this initiative and to join the fight. Corporations and private entities play a key role in Texas's efforts to combat this type of modern-day slavery. For this virtual event, we've gathered leaders in the fight against human trafficking who will speak to us about the work they are doing so we can all use their information and practices to advance our efforts to combat human trafficking. We'll also hear from our current partners in the TBAT program and provide you with the resources you need to join the program and get involved in the fight. It is my honor to introduce to you our first speaker of the conference, the First Lady of Texas, CECILIA ABBOTT. She has been a tireless advocate for the many programs issued by Governor Abbott to combat human trafficking in Texas, and more importantly, she is committed to help victims of this crime. In 2019, she helped launch the statewide campaign, Can You See Me?, to help Texans to recognize indicators of human trafficking and learn how to report suspicious behavior to the National Human Trafficking Hotline. And now, I have the honor of turning it over to First Lady Abbott.
Hello, I'm CECILIA ABBOTT, and I have the privilege of serving as the First Lady of Texas. Thank you for joining us for this webinar on human trafficking and exploitation. Human traffickers hold women, children, and men against their will, destroying their individuality, stripping away their dignity. Some are just young girls and boys sold as mere property, as modern-day slaves. Because of the commitment of leaders in the state and in our communities, Texas is already a national leader in the battle against human trafficking. I was so honored to help launch the statewide Can You See Me campaign last year. Together with a child sex trafficking team in the governor's office, we want to help Texans to recognize signs of human trafficking and learn how to report suspicious behavior. These victims are not invisible if we learn to look for the signs, if we learn to act and to report suspected abuse, exploitation, and trafficking. I ask that all Texas businesses join us in the fight. Now more than ever, we must embrace community, I have no doubt that by joining together, we can help this inhumanity, because nothing on this earth is more powerful than Texans helping Texans. The governor and I thank Secretary Hughes for hosting this important conference, and we thank each of you for learning more about what we can do together to end human trafficking. May God bless you all.
Thank you, Mrs. Abbott, for your powerful remarks and for all you do to help combat trafficking here in Texas. You are a steadfast champion in the fight against human trafficking. Our next speaker is Director Jessica E. Hart. On March 31st, Jessica Hart was sworn in as the Director of the Office for Victims of Crime, a program of the U.S. Justice Department. As Director, Ms. Hart oversees nearly $9 billion in grants and other programs that are vital to victims as they rebuild their lives in the aftermath of crime. Ms. Hart has over 10 years of diverse legal and public service experience, including positions within the U.S. Department of Justice and in Congress. In this latter position, Ms. Hart supported crime victim-related legislation and public policy initiatives. I will now turn it over to Director Hart.
Thank you for inviting me to say a few words today. I'm truly honored that Secretary Hughes asked me to participate in this event. Last month, I had the pleasure of meeting with Secretary Hughes to discuss creative solutions to combating human trafficking, along with the Texas Businesses Against Trafficking. I also had the opportunity to meet with a number of Office for Victims of Crime grantees in Houston and Austin to hear about effective public-private partnerships in combating human trafficking. As the Director of the Office for Victims of Crime, fighting human trafficking is one of my highest priorities, and I have learned that one of the greatest allies in this fight is the business community. Collaboration with businesses yields real results and is a key piece in the battle to end trafficking. Public-private partnerships are something my office will be looking at more closely this year. We will be implementing a new program to increase access to employment opportunities for human trafficking survivors. As you all know, human trafficking schemes do not exist in a vacuum. They depend on legitimate industries to recruit, transport, house, and exploit victims. The business community is instrumental in the fight to eradicate human trafficking. My office is the largest federal funder of services for human trafficking victims in the United States. We recently announced approximately $100 million in funding to combat human trafficking nationwide, including $5 million that is going directly to organizations in Texas. Over half of that $5 million will go to collaborative multidisciplinary task forces that are essential to identifying victims and investigating and prosecuting traffickers. In addition, Texas will also receive over $163 million to support victims of crime, including human trafficking victims, throughout the state of Texas. Texas has made incredible progress in the fight to end human trafficking. Since 2016, OVC-funded Texas task forces reported initiating over 1,400 sex and labor trafficking investigations, and human trafficking program grantees in Texas reported providing services to over 28,000 victims. We know there's still much more to do, and I am confident this funding will be put to good use. Combating human trafficking is a top priority for the Department of Justice. As a fellow Texan myself, I'm encouraged to know that it is also a priority for the Texas business community. Thank you, Secretary Hughes, for your incredible leadership, and to all of you in the business community for everything you do to combat human trafficking.
Thank you, Director Hart, for all you are doing at the national level to combat trafficking and for your help in advancing the TBAT program. Our next speaker, Commissioner Aaron Demerson, serves as the commissioner representing employers for the Texas Workforce Commission. Governor Abbott appointed him to the 3-member commission on August 20th, 2019. In his role, Commissioner Demerson serves as an advocate and the first line of resources for over 565,000 Texas employers. TWC has answered Governor Abbott's challenge to state agencies to join the fight against human trafficking and has been a fellow member of the state's Texas Human Trafficking Prevention Task Force for the past 10 years. In addition to various outreach initiatives and workshops, TWC provides human trafficking awareness training for local workforce development boards across the state. Please join me in welcoming Commissioner Demerson.
Hi, my name is Aaron Demerson, and I'm the Commissioner representing employers at the Texas Workforce Commission. On behalf of the 565,000 Texas employers and 2.6 million small businesses across the state, I want to welcome everyone to the second annual Texas Businesses Against Trafficking Conference. I'd like to personally thank the Secretary of State, Ruth Hughes, for providing me with this opportunity to address you today. I know her and her team have put together a great conference, and you will learn about the many opportunities to collaborate with other Texas employers and share best practices on combating human trafficking. Just to give you a little background about my role, Governor Abbott appointed me to this position in August of 2019, and I have the privilege of representing the interests of employers on the 3-member Texas Workforce Commission. My 2 other colleagues include the Chair and Commissioner representing the public, Brian Daniel, and the Commissioner representing labor, Julian Alvarez. Our mission is to promote and support a workforce system that creates value and offers employers, individuals, and communities the opportunity to achieve and sustain economic prosperity. Since January 2010, TWC has been a member of the state's Texas Human Trafficking Prevention Task Force. In our commitment to support the mission of the task force, TWC continues human trafficking awareness training for staff at the state's local workforce development boards. TWC also provides these boards with regular reminders about how to help identify and prevent human trafficking. In addition to regular reminders, TWC hosted a statewide virtual training event to prevent human trafficking. The training was well received and included the migrant and seasonal farm workers, the National Farm Workers Job Program grantees, and complaint specialists who are trained on how to identify potential human trafficking victims. TWC also investigates child labor complaints and conducts approximately 2,400 on-site compliance inspections of employers a year. All child labor investigators are trained in identifying and properly responding to any suspected human trafficking they might encounter. People can contact TWC through the Fraud, Waste, and Abuse Hotline, and they can email TWC at twc.fraud@twc.state.tx.us. We refer any report of human trafficking to the appropriate law enforcement agency. To promote more awareness in our agency, over 3,000 TWC employers have taken the human trafficking prevention training by viewing the Be the One in the Fight Against Human Trafficking video. This video includes how to prevent, recognize, and report human trafficking, and how the Texas workforce system can assist victims. Finally, TWC continues to participate in human trafficking prevention meetings and maintains a leadership role in the Human Trafficking Prevention Coordinating Council. As a commissioner representing employers, I have the opportunity to talk to many Texas employers on a daily basis. So whether you are a small mom and pop shop or a Fortune 500 company, you're the eyes and ears on the ground throughout our great state. Being the eyes and ears of Texas, it is important that we all are aware of the seriousness of human trafficking. To go that extra step, I want to encourage our Texas employers to join the Texas Businesses Against Trafficking. Joining this partnership will make Texas stronger and safer. You will also set an example for other businesses in your community. As a Texas employer, it is helpful to know what to look for and that it can affect everyone and anyone, a male, a female, adult, or child. Human trafficking can happen in any industry and to all types of Texans. So be the one. If you see something, say something. All it takes is one person willing to take one action to help save a victim. It could also save someone's life. We can't fight this alone. Let's all come together and be the one that ends human trafficking. Thank you for your time today, and let's continue to make progress. Enjoy the conference.
Thank you, Commissioner Demerson, for those words and for your hard work, especially during this pandemic. In the remainder of our program, we will hear from legislators in the Texas legislature who have worked tirelessly to advance efforts to combat human trafficking here in Texas. Andrea Sparks, the director of the Governor's Child Sex Trafficking Team and a tireless advocate for victims here in Texas. Several of our TBAT partners, and from our office, Nikki Yee, who will discuss the details of joining the program. Thank you again for participating in this virtual conference with us today. I will be back at the end of the program to wrap up.
Good afternoon. I hope everyone had a well and safe Thanksgiving. I'm State Representative Synfronia Thompson from District 141 here in Northeast Houston, and my district covers a little bit of Humble and a little bit of Spring. I know we're here to talk about human trafficking. Let me tell you how Texas got involved in this horrendous job of trying to stamp out human trafficking. A few of us got interested in human trafficking, and we started passing some laws and trying to give tools to law enforcement and prosecutors to be able to put a lid on or stamp out human trafficking within the state of Texas. And that's when we learned the extent of human trafficking, not only within our state, but all over the nation and all over the world. We wondered how in the world was all of this trafficking taking place in Texas? And then we said, you know what? We have Interstate 10, and we recognize between 12.5 to 13,000 persons are trafficked through our state each year. So we really got busy because we really wanted to be able to do something about putting an end to human trafficking. And we were so interested and so aggressive, we thought we were going to be able to do it in a session or two, only to learn that each session of the legislature, there's a little bit more and a little bit more that we need to do in order to be able to stamp out this big problem. So over the course of the years, I've had the privilege of being able to author a lot of bills, creating the task force that's in the Attorney General's office. And during the interim, the Attorney General looks over the state of Texas, and he looks at the laws that we have passed, and he tried to see how effective our laws are and what additional laws that may be needed in an effort to be able to make this more of a victim centered legislation, so we would be able to protect the victims of human trafficking. First, we thought human trafficking was just sex trafficking. And then we learned, no, it's more than sex trafficking. It involves labor trafficking as well. So we started looking at how we're going to be able to curb both of these kinds of problems. And as a result of that, we were able to pass a tremendous number of bills that involve various professionals and asking them to train their staff and themselves as well to be able to be aware of trafficked persons, either in sex or in labor. And that's how we're able to embark upon your help and your assistance in your business world. And we're thankful that you are a part of our task, not only our task force, but you're a part of helping us to stamp out this particular crime within Texas by being aware of it, because we recognize that awareness is one of the key factors that enable all of us to be able to know what we see when we see it, and if it in fact is trafficking. Next session of the legislature is no different than the ones that we've had before. That is, we're going to be looking at recommendations by the task force under the auspices of the Attorney General's office, and we're fashioning already legislation so that we would continue to keep this as a victim-centered legislation in order to be able to help the victims. Now, you and I both know the victims are not always adults. They always end up being children as well. And that's also an unfortunate aspect of this particular crime. So we're going to be expanding our laws to increase the penalties on sex purchasing in order to curb the demand. We wanted to also to provide the ability to present evidence of the victim outcries on human trafficking and sexual assaults while taking victim-centered approach to provide testimony during trial. We want to also expand the definition of coercion to include labor trafficking. And we want to enable the Texas Alcohol and Beverages Department or Commission to be able to do something about drink solicitation, because we know that this not only leads to prostitution, but it also leads to trafficking as well. In addition to that, we have, if you know and aware of, we have what is called children safe zones, drug-free zones, alcohol-free zones within our states, and we've had it for a long period of time. We want to take the same approach to have children-free zones when it comes to trafficking. So children who are in our shelters who have been trafficked cannot be reached by the person who are responsible for them having been trafficked in the first place. And this is going to give an opportunity for our law enforcement individuals to make sure that those persons who are not supposed to be there, not supposed to be at those particular shelters, and I'm talking about people who are responsible for causing these kids or these to be trafficked in the first place, to be questioned and or arrested if the incident provides for such. Because of your help, because of your participation, because you have helped us so tremendously uh, well within our state of Texas through signages, through training, and even participating in this program today. I want to thank you for helping us to be able to shut down these kind of situations all over our state, save our citizens, adults, and children as well, to make our state a greater state to live in and one that we all would be proud of. Thank you very much and have a happy season of the holidays as they come up, and stay safe.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm State Senator Alexis Arblanco, and I'm glad to have this opportunity to speak about issues of human trafficking at the Texas Business Against Trafficking virtual conference. Texas has the second highest number of reported cases of human trafficking in the country, and the University of Texas estimates that in 2016 there were 313,000 victims of human trafficking across the state. Human trafficking is akin to modern slavery and is a public health concern that affects individuals, families, and entire communities across generations. Recent surveys have concluded that 88% of sex trafficking survivors reported having contact with a healthcare provider while they were being trafficked. Because healthcare providers are in a unique position to identify victims, it is essential that they are provided with the necessary training to properly detect and assist potential victims of human trafficking. Yet these providers report that they are inadequately prepared and lack the knowledge and skills to effectively engage with suspected trafficking victims, and moreover, do not know where to turn for resources. I filed House Bill 2059 because I wanted to ensure we were providing the training and the tools to these medical professionals to identify and help prevent human trafficking. House Bill 2059 requires that the Health and Human Services Commission approve training courses to ensure providers have choices and flexibility in taking the training. The bill also allows that healthcare facilities submit their own courses for approval. Many healthcare facilities and organizations have already developed human trafficking prevention trainings and already provide these trainings to their employees, and we want to make sure that we're utilizing those resources. There's a reason that Texas has such a high number of human trafficking cases. As one of the largest border states, Texas is both a major destination and transit state for U.S. human trafficking. This hits a little closer to home for me as El Paso is a border community. A lot of this is happening in our own backyard. A study by the Texas Attorney General's Office estimated that 20% of all trafficking victims in the United States travel through Texas, and usually along Interstate 10. I think many of us don't realize the scope of the problem because we don't see it in our everyday lives. But this is a huge issue for our country and for our state. House Bill 2059 passed into legislation last session, and I'm committed to building on this initiative and to continue the work to combat human trafficking in this upcoming session. Thank you all very much.
Hi, I'm Andrea Sparks, and I'm the director of Governor Abbott's Child Sex Trafficking Team. I'm here today to share with you our strategies for ending the commercial sexual exploitation of children and youth in the state of Texas, or human trafficking. And I'm here, of course, to urge you to get involved in this fight. Human trafficking and child exploitation is not a criminal justice issue. It's not a juvenile justice issue. It's not an immigration issue. It's not a child protection issue. It's not a government issue. It is an all of us issue. And this affects our public health. It affects our economy. It affects the very fabric of our society. And we need everyone involved in this fight. So I know that businesses are already doing so much, but I also know that businesses can do more. And so I'm hoping that by sharing some of our strategies, I can give you some ideas about how to get involved. First and foremost, please join TBAT. It's just such a wonderful way for businesses to get involved by raising awareness, by checking their supply chain for labor trafficking and other kinds of trafficking, by making sure that business money and time is not spent on sexually oriented businesses, and by really getting involved in this fight. And secondly, I want to share with you our 5-pronged strategy, what we call the Texas model for addressing the commercial sexual exploitation of youth in the state of Texas. And just see if you can think of ways to get involved with us in this fight even more than TBAT. So protect is our first strategy. We want to protect children and youth from this happening to them in the first place. So how we do that? We are partnering with TEA and schools across the state to implement prevention education for caregivers in those schools, for teachers, educators, and for the kids themselves. If you would like to volunteer for one of those opportunities, please contact us. We have a lot of kids in the state of Texas. We have a lot of things to say to them, and we want to make sure it's set in an age-appropriate way, but also a way that really does protect them from traffickers and exploiters. We are also really standing up and supporting those services that build resiliency in vulnerable youth. So in kids who might not have a safe place to go after school, we are supporting Boys and Girls Clubs and their prevention education efforts as well. We're supporting CASA volunteers for those kids who are in foster care and really need an advocate and someone to lean on. We're supporting mentors. We know that a supportive adult relationship can absolutely prevent a child from being exploited. And we are curbing demand for commercial sex. So we are standing up cities across the state of Texas, Cities Empowered Against Sexual Exploitation, or CECE Texas, with our partner at Children at Risk. And this is basically training male leaders in those cities to volunteer as cyber patrols, get together once a month and actively interdict and deter would-be buyers of commercial sex. And it's working. So we have CECE patrols now in Austin, in Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston, Galveston, soon to be Corpus Christi, El Paso, and we're working on more. That's our first strategy, which is to protect. Our second strategy is to recognize the victims that we do have. Research says that even experts in the field don't recognize children as victims of exploitation until they've been exploited at least 2 years. We've got to recognize these kids sooner rather than later. We've got to recognize that trauma and pimp control and trafficker control is used to make victims of all kinds of human trafficking look complicit in their own exploitation. And so we've got to look beyond the sensational movies and other messages you're seeing in the media to really see that victimization and signs of victimization can be very subtle. We've got to raise awareness about what it looks like because we have so much misinformation and harmful conspiracy theories out there now that are actually detracting from the reality of trafficking. So help us raise awareness about the true signs of trafficking. We have lots of tools to help you do that. And you can contact me to get those tools. in any sector, any business, we can tailor them for you. We want to recover. This is our third goal. We want to recover victims, and that means recover them with trauma-informed responses and supportive responses, not arrest them, not detain them. There was a time in our state where children were regularly detained and put into the juvenile probation system for being victims of child exploitation. That time is no more. I'm happy to say that time is no more. And now we are building trauma-informed responses, multidisciplinary care coordination, and special advocates who meet kids where they are, wherever they're recovered, and provide support both in the short term and the long term. And so in order to continue that recovery process and make sure we don't start detaining victims, we need support for those organizations that provide care coordination, mostly our children's advocacy centers around the state, and also support for our special advocates, our CECILIA advocates. And those can be found on our website, which you will have at the end of this talk. And then we also want to support healing in the long term. We know that healing takes a long time from this very complex trauma, and it's cyclical, and it includes relapse. It includes running away. And so just understanding that victims can't just heal overnight from what they've suffered, that becoming a survivor takes a lot of different pieces to the puzzle and takes a lot of time, is a huge help. Honestly, one of the best things businesses could do, two things. They could support the local organizations in their community who are already working to support the healing of survivors. And two, they could stand up a job program in their companies where you could maybe mentor one or two survivors and give them a chance at another life, at economic empowerment and independence. That's what survivors need in order to stay out of an exploitative situation in the long term. And our last goal is to bring justice. It's our last but not our least goal. And when we say bring justice, we not only want to support prosecutors, investigators with training, with specialized personnel. Many of our local law enforcement agencies, as well as DPS, do have foundations that can take donations for those things, and we give them a lot of grants. But we also want to bring justice in making sure that victims get the justice they need and they deserve and that they recognize as justice. So we want to make sure that they can apply for clemency or orders of non-disclosure when they are made to commit crimes due to their victimization, when their traffickers force them to steal or sell drugs. We want them to be able to get those crimes off of their records so they can go on and have a full life and a successful life. And we want to see that justice is done not only for the traffickers, but for the buyers, for the facilitators of this crime, and for those that profit and benefit from this crime. The businesses that turn a blind eye and know that trafficking is going on in their business and still tolerate it. So there are so many things that I wish I could tell you during this time together. But if anything, I would say, you know, our survivors in the state of Texas are some of the strongest people I've ever met. And they inspire me every day to keep going. And if you would just take time to get to know some of them in your business, it would change your life and potentially change the lives of all of your employees. So I hope that you become more aware of this issue. I beg of you to join TBAT. And I also hope that someday you can consider interacting with some of these survivors and helping them get through what they're going through by giving them an economic opportunity that they're not otherwise going to have. These are tough times for everybody, no doubt, businesses included. But I will tell you that this is the toughest time for our children at risk and also our survivors who are trying to get out of trafficking. And with your help, we can help them find freedom. Thank you so much.
Hi everyone, my name is Jill Blickstein and I'm the head of ESG at American Airlines. American has been a member of Texas Businesses Against Trafficking for about a year now, and we're honored to be associated with this group of outstanding Texas businesses. We believe in the power of partnership, and that partnership is critical to combating human trafficking. Our goal is to force multiply awareness of human trafficking, which all too often goes undetected and harms so many individuals. We also want to learn from our partners, and that's where the value of collaboration from TBAT is so critical. American wants to extend our sincere thanks to Secretary of State Ruth Hughes for her deep attention to this matter, her ongoing commitment to it, and for inviting us to join in today's program. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Ludmila Galavin, and I'm the CEO and President of MASTERWORD Services. As a top global provider of interpreting services, we are often the first line of defense for victims and survivors of human trafficking, working alongside with law enforcement, government organizations, and NGOs, ensuring language access for limited English proficiency and deaf and hard of hearing individuals. MASTERWORD joined TBAT, Texas Business Against Trafficking, in July of 2020. We joined because we want to make a difference. Human trafficking is growing at an alarming rate, both nationally and internationally, and Texas has been ranked among the top states with the worst problem. We believe that businesses, by implementing zero tolerance policies internally within their organizations, by asking their vendors and suppliers to do the same, and by raising awareness about this horrible problem, can make human trafficking a thing of the past. Together, we can make a difference.
Hi, this is Stephen Marsh with NIGMA Solutions LLC. NIGMA Solutions has been a part of Texas Businesses Against Trafficking, or TBAT, as an associate member since 2019. We joined TBAT because we wanted to follow one of our core values, which was doing what is right. We felt that it was important as members of the community to take a stand. When starting your own business, there is no guide that discusses important topics such as how important it is to be involved and to give back to the community your business serves, which is why other businesses should get involved, because now is the time to answer the call, support your community, and do what is right, and help end human trafficking. I urge you to get involved because it takes all of us to end human trafficking, and with your support, I believe we can do it together.
Hi, this is Brad NAMDAR. I'm the founder and CEO of PRSB, the House of NAMDAR, and NAMDAR Decor. I'm proud to say that PRSB has been an official partner with our great Texas Secretary of State, Texas Businesses Against Trafficking, also known as TBAT, initiative since June of 2020. We joined the Secretary of State of Texas TBAT initiative due to a noticeable rise in trafficking in not only Dallas, but across the suburbs in our great state of Texas. We take tremendous pride in being official partners with TBAT due to the various ways we can contribute, from assisting our local law enforcement to contacting our Secretary of State, but most importantly, by informing other businesses of this initiative and this problem we have in Texas. It's also important to remember that regardless of the size of your business, small or big, you can still make an impact by joining TBAT. Texas businesses working together can be the most powerful coalition to help put an end to trafficking in Texas. Together, we can implement proper oversight in our vendor-to-vendor and business-to-business compliance standards. We can also bring awareness to other businesses regarding trafficking, and most importantly, we can join together publicly as a coalition of businesses, showing that in Texas, we will not allow for any form of trafficking to exist. Businesses across the state of Texas should join together to ensure that we protect the safety and sanctity of our communities, fellow citizens, law enforcement. And by joining TBAT, we are putting together a coalition that shows that we will prevail in defeating trafficking, because a Texas coalition with the Secretary of State is a coalition unlike any other.
I'm Mark Van Beest, Vice President of External Affairs and Safety and Security at G6 Hospitality. There's nothing more important to our company than the safety and well-being of our team members, guests, and the communities in which we operate. G6 condemns human trafficking in all its forms and is why we join and support TBAT. Human trafficking violates basic human rights and is a global societal issue in which multiple stakeholders must partner to eradicate this problem. To do our part, Motel 6 and Studio 6 hotels have implemented a variety of practices to combat human trafficking through enhanced safety and security procedures, training and response, along with partnerships and advocacy. We've learned much through this journey and are proud to partner with TBAT and other businesses. Together, we can make a difference in the ongoing fight against human trafficking.
Hi, I'm Nikki Yee with the Office of the Texas Secretary of State. Thank you for your interest in the Texas Businesses Against Trafficking program, and thank you to our members for sharing their thoughts today. We want to take this opportunity to invite your corporation or private entity to join this partnership to combat human trafficking in Texas. You may join TBAT as an associate or a partner. Although both of these membership levels share the same importance, they have somewhat different requirements. For example, associate members are required to prohibit the use of business funds to patronize a business that is part of the commercial sex industry, adopt a policy aimed at reducing human trafficking, make training available to employees about recognizing and addressing human trafficking, and include information about the business's human trafficking policy and supplier contracts. Partner members are required to follow the previous commitments I just outlined and also must adopt a zero-tolerance policy towards human trafficking, take action to ensure compliance with the zero-tolerance policy, implement mandatory training for all employees, and participate in a public awareness or education campaign within 12 months prior to the submission of the application. TBAT membership will expire after 3 years, and businesses may reapply. Associate members must participate in one public awareness or education campaign over the course of their 3-year term, and partners must participate in one annually. On our website, you will find a detailed list of requirements. Furthermore, you will be able to review and complete either a certificate of association to become an associate or a certificate of recognition to become a partner. Once completed, you can submit it via fax, mail, or email TBAT. Please also attach additional documents that provide further details. For example, businesses can attach copies of the supplier contracts, the employee handbook, the training materials, or any other materials with redactions as needed. As mentioned, this partnership is for corporations and private entities and does not include nonprofit groups. Many of you may already be engaging in activities and have policies in place to fight human trafficking, so we want to recognize your efforts. Join TBAT and help us combat this horrendous crime. If you have any questions on the TBAT program or would like assistance with the application process, please feel free to reach out to us at either tbat@sos.texas.gov or 512-463-5770. Thank you.
Cooperation is key in confronting human trafficking because the issue affects us all and transcends the barriers of race, income, and socioeconomic status. We must do all we can to work together in combating these heinous crimes. To that end, businesses, agencies, local governments, law enforcement, and nonprofit organizations across our state, many of the groups and individuals you heard from today, must partner together to maximize our reach in spreading awareness on human trafficking. Now, more than ever, and especially in light of COVID-19, we need to be even more vigilant and not let up on these efforts. Traffickers have used COVID-19 to coerce victims to remain under their control at a time when victims are most desperate for a sense of belonging and need access to basic necessities, which traffickers promise to provide. Here in Texas, businesses seeking to make a difference in fighting against human trafficking can learn more about our TBAT program on our website. Individuals can also get involved by following the efforts of the human trafficking awareness programs put forth by state agencies, such as the Governor's Office, Attorney General's Office, or local law enforcement or nonprofit organizations in your area. By continuing to work together to share resources, best practices, and raising awareness of the signs of human trafficking and how to prevent it, we will help to forge an even brighter future for all Texans. Thank you again for your time. Please reach out to our office or to the contacts on the screen should you have any further questions. We look forward to working with you for the betterment of our state.